I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Community Forum. We call it our Saturday Morning Freedom Forum. Today we have a lot of information, as we do each and every week, to share with you. First of all, we want to dedicate this broadcast to Chadwick Boseman. He is a real superhero. I know he played a number of superhero roles, particularly in Wakanda, but he was a guy that battled cancer and has now become the poster man for men and others getting tested and preventing cancer. So we salute an actor who pushed past his pain, his discomfort, to continue to bring positive messages to our community, Chadwick Boseman. We also dedicate this broadcast to one of the coaches in all of America, John Thompson, who made his transition this week, a phenomenal coach who didn't just teach young men how to play the game, but he taught them how to make sure that they were academically excellent. They were pushing for excellence. This week on our broadcast, we have our historic HBCU tour. That's why I have on my jacket. You should have had your child get on the bus. It's a powerful experience, and you'll get an update from our tour director, Kalana Kale. Also, we're going to talk about voter registration. The chairman of our board, attorney C.K. Hoffler, will share 10 things that you need to know in order to register and to vote in this election. Get ready for 10 ways to vote, 10 empowerment moves. This week we had a number of forums. We had a public policy forum, a roundtable with former Ambassador Earthrin Cousins. She's going to talk about food justice and food equity. And we had a really powerful discussion from our Surgeon General, our doctor of all doctors, Dr. Leon McDougall. He will share with you an update on COVID and NCAA and athletics. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the census. We have just a few more days and weeks to complete the census. You should be counted. Everyone must be counted wherever you are, whether you're a refugee, an immigrant, a homeless, whether you are in a shelter, in a senior building, wherever you are, we want you counted. And then finally, I know you're wondering, what has Reverend Jackson been doing this week? Well, he's been to Kenosha. He's been dealing with all of the unrest and all of the tensions that have arisen in cities like Kenosha around the country. You will see and hear what our position is and what we are recommending to happen over as we look towards this Labor Day weekend. We thank you for tuning in each and every week. Remember, it's not too late to get your membership. We're asking every church to make sure that all of your members are members of PUSH. It's $35 a year. It's $15 for students. Parents, every child should be a member of PUSH. We're pushing for you. It's what we do absolutely best. We need every household to be fully registered to vote, counted in the census, and become a member of the Rainbow PUSH Coalition. Just go to rainbowpush.org. You can sign up right now, or you can simply text the word PUSH to 41444. PUSH. Text the word PUSH to 41444, and you can make a donation. You can join right now. Don't wait. Don't tell me the check is in the mail. Just go right now. Text the word PUSH, 41444. I don't have any more time. I look forward to seeing your membership and you getting a pen in the mail. Thank you so much for tuning in each and every week.
Good morning. Welcome to Rainbow PUSH. May I help you? Please remove your hats. Nothing on the table. I am so happy to be honored I love Rainbow Push. I love Reverend Jackson. I love what I do. I love people, and I love Jesus. Hi! Hey!
Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass. Thank you, Jesus. And He leads me beside the quiet stream. He restores my failing health, and He helps me to do what I nurse Him the most. That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe. I'm safe in His arms. When the storms of life is raging, and the billows they roll, holding on, and I'm so glad, He shall hold me.
Once again, young people, you have inspired those of us who work very hard to support you to higher heights. Congratulations, we've had a very successful week. Not only did we have 100 plus registrants for the first virtual HBCU college tour with Push Excel, we even went overseas and got a chance to talk to the Ghanaian consulate. Wow, what a week. Some of the schools that we had an opportunity to visit were XAVIER University, Central State University, Wilberforce, Lincoln in Missouri. We've never been to Lincoln with Push Excel, and it was a phenomenal experience. Tuskegee, wow. You definitely laid out the red carpet for us all week long, and we are very appreciative. Howard University came with an entire crew, and we were able to talk with the admissions department as well as learn valuable study abroad information from some of the student ambassadors. So we thank you. We thank you, Stephen Spencer, for setting that up. Very, very valuable asset to the Push family. Not only did we get a chance to visit some of those schools, but we also went up and down the East Coast. We also got a chance to go to the Midwest and Tougaloo. Wow, Tougaloo was able to accept some students on site, and we still have that information recorded for those of you who did not get a chance to get on the virtual bus. Don't forget to go over to our YouTube page at www.pushexcel.org. Click on the link, and we will definitely source you to all of our information that you missed this last week. What did we do from Monday to Friday, we had valuable workshops and information with the schools. Money Monday, where not only did we find out how important it is to have a conversation with your parents and your family to sit down and say, what are our finances? What do they look like? And lay out the blueprint so that you have something valuable to take when you're going into your senior year and preparing for your freshman year. Now, on Tuesday, that lunch and learn experience that we had with Mr. Tyrone Studemeyer, I promise you, it was definitely worth the watch. So if you did miss the bus, go to our YouTube page and look at that, because he is a top executive with Hyatt. And with that lunch and learn experience, our students got a chance to understand how to take risk. Not only did they learn how to take risk, but they were also taught about diversity, inclusion, and what is a total compensation. Adults, do we know what that is? I do, because I've worked in corporate America, but our students now know what that is. And that is not only what they get offered from the corporation, but it's the additional assets that they get with their 401k, with their benefits. So they learned all about their total compensation. And how about this? Did you all know that 80% about what is talked about you is talked about when you're not even around in the room? So your word is very, very important. Your image is very, very important. What you put out into the atmosphere is even more important. And we were set off with an awesome week when we were given a very valuable word of encouragement from our ministry experience with Dr. Stewart. We appreciate you and we thank you, hailing all the way from Memphis, Tennessee. Lastly, Friday was lit. All the way live. Our Yard Fest was so exciting with all of our HBCU alums and students and ambassadors and Greeks awardees and fraternities. Thank you for coming out and showing all of our HBCU virtual push tour participants how interesting it was. Most importantly, go to www.pushexcel.org and join as a student. Get your own pen. It is only $15, and we want you to be a part of the Push Excel Rainbow Push family for the rest of your entire time while being a student. Thank you.
They lined up before dawn for a march unlike any the nation's capital has ever seen. Temperature checks and masks, a new generation gathering at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, where Martin Luther King Jr. told the country he had a dream 57 years ago. In sweltering heat, thousands of Americans from all across the country marching to King's own memorial, sharing the pain of those who marched before them.
It's time we have a conversation with America. We need to have a conversation about your racism, about your bigotry, about your hate, about how you would put your knee on our neck while we cry for our lives. We need a new conversation.
This year's march fueled by this moment of national reckoning on race, sparked by the killing of George Floyd.
We have to be the change, and we have to be his legacy.
An anticipated crowd of 70,000 marched on Washington, fighting for the same things their mothers, fathers, and even grandparents fought for during the civil rights movement.
Because of my parents and the sacrifices they made, despite the fact that they weren't able to do certain things. So I just want to make sure that progress continues.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
We are going to be the generation that dismantles systemic racism once and for all, now and forever. We are going to be the generation that calls a halt to police brutality and gun violence once and for all, now and forever. We are going to be the generation that reserves climate change and saves our planet once and for all, now and forever. And we are going to be the generation that ends poverty here in America, the wealthiest nation
my poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
This dream is still alive. You might have killed the dreamer, but you can't kill the dream, because truth crushed the earth shall rise again. We gonna rise, never to fall again. We gonna stand up even when our legs are tired. We gonna make this dream come true.
Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities, if you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support Push? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text the word on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census gives communities across America the chance to get the funding they need. But there's a catch. The money is based on counting an accurate number of residents in each state. The fewer people we count, the less money Illinois gets. Illinois has received nearly $60 billion from the federal government based on numbers from the last census. Every person who doesn't fill out the census means less money for Illinois. That's money we could use for new school programs to help our children thrive and succeed, for building new bridges that would help you travel safely on your morning commute, for paving roads and ensuring more reliable public transportation, and for improving our hospitals and clinics so everyone gets the best health care. In Illinois, we deserve our fair share, and it starts with all of us being counted. Visit my2020census.gov or text 987-987 to learn how you can fill out the census today.
We hosted our Making Community Count virtual discussion. It was both informative and encouraging, driving home the importance of participating in the U.S. Census.
$625 billion in your federal tax dollars go back to our communities based exclusively on census data. This is money for schools, Medicare, roads, and bridges, and college grants. In fact, there are more than 100 programs that are funded solely based on the census. So for each person that is not counted, we miss $1,400 per person per year. Illinois has lost millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I believe either for 4 or 5 decades, we've also lost a seat in Congress. And we already think we're going to lose 1 seat without the census count. If people do not fill out the census, we could lose 2 seats, which is losing, 2 important voices on various committees. And a lot of us are on really strong committees, and we wouldn't want to lose that voice. Back in February, our census chair for the Congressional Black Caucus, Steve Horsford, had a group meeting with the national head of the census. Our main objective was to make sure that African Americans are counted in the census. We are undercounted, and we wanted to make sure that he knew this was very important to us and that we were going to be watching. We got $5 million more put in to the census to make sure that, actually was more than that, to make sure that the information was spread all over, that we got $5 billion more, in additional funding to make sure that we could advertise in different places and we could get the word out to undercounted communities. Bringing that forward every month, the CBC meets with Stacey Abrams because she's very active in making sure that everyone votes counts all over the country. And we also have had national town hall meetings around the census.
About a month ago, I was out on one of my once every 3 week trips beyond my mailbox and beyond my driveway, running errands. And I went to the grocery store. I had been everywhere. And so I looked, it was dark, and I said, I need to go home, okay? I don't get out but once every 3 weeks, and I'm just going crazy. But I wanted to go into this beauty store, and it was right next to the grocery store. And I said, I need to go home. So I got in my car, started to pull out of my parking space, and I said, this makes no sense. I'm not going to come back out for another 3 weeks. I need to just go now. But someone wanted my parking space, so I pulled out into the next aisle, parked my car, went inside. Lo and behold, I walked inside and someone said, hey, Miss Census, how is the census going? And I'm thinking, really? I said, if you have completed your questionnaire, it's going great. So the young lady working there said, why is she calling you Miss Census? I've never heard census before. And the person said, oh my God, please don't say that. Please, take that back. Take that back. You don't want her to hear you say that. And she said, well, I haven't. What is census? And the person put their hands over their head. He says, oh my God, here we go. And so I told her, I said, the primary reason we take a census really is to determine how many seats each state gets in Congress. And that's really important because the more seats we have in Congress, the bigger our voice. I said, do you know that if it wasn't for the census, we wouldn't even have any African Americans in Congress, any Hispanics in Congress, any Asians in Congress? And I said, but at the community level, for those of us on the ground, do you know there are some essential programs? And in those funding formulas, what really weighs heavily in them are the population statistics generated by the census. I said, programs such as infrastructure. We don't want potholes to tear up our tires in our cars. I don't. She said, that's right. And I said, and guess what? Healthcare, Medicaid, Medicare, rural hospitals, community health centers, the Children's Health Insurance Plan. And I said, let me tell you about education. Those Title I funds that the schools heavily depend on, special education funding, bilingual education, and how about the free and reduced lunch program that all of the children can enjoy. And even though schools closed, the schools were able to still provide food. And I said, in social services, SNAP, WIC, even affordable housing, such as the Section 8 voucher program. I said, even Meals on Wheels for seniors. And she stopped me and she said 7 words. All of these programs are important to me.
In terms of some of the innovations, we just were really out the gate. Back in November of 2019, we joined the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus in their bus tour to really raise awareness of the census. So the ILBC was on the west side and south side of Chicago and promoting the census. We met over at MacArthur's on the west side. I had a press conference at that time. Of course, we had to indulge in the food at MacArthur's. Can't be there without indulging in the food.
I know, right?
Senator Lightford led the charge over there, and it was fantastic. And, we got off to a really good running start. When the NBA All-Star Game was in Chicago, we did a watch party at Collins High School because we realized that many of the people that we're trying to reach were not going to be able to go to the NBA All-Star Game or any of the festivities that were going to be going on in the city. So we hosted right there at Collins High School. We had a 20-foot screen, big screen TV, over 200 plus guests in attendance. Elected officials showed up for that as well. But we also had former Chicago Bulls players, current Bulls players, folks like Craig showed up. I mean, you name it. A lot of folks showed up. And it was a very, very powerful piece to see that going on. We also then implemented what we call the virtual truck experience. At every event you can possibly imagine, we've had this virtual truck providing PSAs from various elected officials, rappers, different trusted voices in the community, putting the message out there in the hood about the importance of being counted and participating in the census. So, when our elected officials have been out there giving out food, and I'm telling you, to look at the lines and lines of food, people waiting just to get food, it's mind-boggling to look at the real desperation that's in the faces of folks. So one of the things that we've been doing at the same time that we've been talking about the importance of the census is that we first of all got to drive home the message that people really do count, that you really do matter. And what we've been saying to folks is that, look, we need you to respond, but we need to let you know that we care about you, that we're here to serve you, so that when they're getting food and when they're getting PPEs, protective equipment, et cetera, we're trying to make sure that people understand that you do matter to us. You really do count to us. And we want to be responsive to your needs. We know that people are still in poverty. People are going through a lot of changes, and that's another whole story. I'm not going to get it all the way into that right now, but we know why the situations are the way they are right now. They did not happen by chance. But one thing I will say is that any people that have been dealing with trauma and terror for 400 plus years is going to leave this effect. So we got to lift our people up and make sure that they understand that we care about them. They do matter. And we're going to keep on demonstrating that in all the activities that we do.
I just want to speak a little bit about the outreach to the faith community, which we had, a number of us, pretty much everybody on this call, to my knowledge, had been working with the faith community to put together a plan. This is pre-COVID, right? And we were working with people to make sure that they had laptops and setups in their vestibules and places within their church, sanctuary, that once their service was over, people could do it. It'd be a one-stop shop. You just get out of service and you go and you fill out your form, but it didn't happen. COVID happened instead. And so, but that doesn't stop us from still partnering with the faith community to say, maybe everything that you're doing is online. Maybe everything you're doing is by Facebook or even Zoom, but the message still needs to be the same. We must have an accurate count. Again, if we're not counted in, we'll be counted out.
During this voting cycle, when our vote is our voice, we need to make sure that we are getting our stories out there, letting folks know why it is important to vote, why it is important to make your voice heard. Number one. Number two, making sure that we're giving hope and empowering our communities to understand that if they have the information, they can make informed choices. Making sure folks understand that if there are things that are being done to suppress any kind of anything that has to do with voting, make sure that they know who to call and how to make sure that they can get information to let the Election Commission know, as well as let others know if this is happening. So I would just say empowering our communities, making sure that they know they have a voice and their vote is their voice, and putting out a call to action to all communities to ensure that they come out to vote. And if they see any issues with their voting places or any other issues, they should let others know and make sure that they take action against it.
One of the best ways to get our vote out in our communities, because we do believe in it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to get a vote. So if we come out together and in groups, and that's what we're focused on, and our trusted messengers and helping each other. My message always is, if you're voting, take 10 people with you to vote, because so you should take everybody else so that they know. And we have to break it down to our community, because they have to make sure that it's for them. Because if it's not something for them, and like Senator is saying, she speaks so well on this, and thank you for being on our town hall. We got so much play from that, because the following we have is people that want to know the right thing and the true thing. They're looking for the truth, because there's been so many, what they believe are lies. So the election is so important, and they have been taught that their vote does not count. Well, they're learning that it does count in all of the things that the young people are doing. And we are watching. Everybody needs to watch. It can't be just the people that are at the polls that are counting. We have to all watch and make sure that our vote is counted. And that is the most important thing.
We held our public policy roundtable with guests Reverend Todd Yeary, Senior Vice President of Rainbow Push Coalition.
My privilege to join you on this, the anniversary of that first March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on this day in 1963. The truth of the matter is we are living in a version of what I would call political deja vu. The same issues that confronted us then confront us now. The same policy needs that were needed then are needed now. The gains that we thought we would celebrate, and for many of us, we did celebrate in 1964, 1965, 1968 during the War on Poverty and the Great Society Plan of the Lyndon Johnson administration. Those have been, in many ways, under constant attack. And the truth of the matter is, it really isn't about what happened in the 60s. It's what happened in the Brown v. Board of Education decision of 1954. There's been this constant and unrelenting onslaught of trying to undo the notion that separate but equal could not be any kind of a doctrine that affirmed democratic principles, but that somehow or other we needed to go back to the Plessy policy of 1896. And so here we are in 2020, again, presenting another demand. The issue on that day in 1963 was not about a speech. It was about the issues of the day. We have made that March on Washington about a dream, and really it was about a demand. The dream helped to frame the objective, but the demand framed the interaction. And so now we must bear in mind that in 2020, in the age of a pandemic that has a parallel track to it, we've been fighting against COVID-19 for the last several months, but we've been fighting against systemic racism since the earliest days of this country. We must continue to put forth our best effort and present righteous demands. And you cannot make a demand if you don't engage in the process. We must remember the history of what brought us here. We built not only a nation, but an economy on the backs of free labor of those who did not have any legal status. They could not be counted as persons, much less citizens. And now here we are as the descendants of those who paid the ultimate price for generations, being able to stand up on their behalf because they could not stand up on their own. And so we should not only just cry out their names in the streets, we need to speak the names of those who have been martyred across this country as we go to balloting processes, whether they be in person, by mail, early voting, whatever it is. Everybody, lottie-dottie, everybody, the whole family needs to participate, because voting is the way we make a demand for what is our right as persons and citizens. Here's what I would suggest needs to be the broad frame, and we can talk about the specifics. We need to talk about judicial reform. We need to make sure that state and federal courts are not stacked against the interest of human dignity and human rights. That often means, particularly across the country, that we need to have folks in executive seats, governors and the president, who are equipped and ready to name those persons who will not only apply the law, but apply it in a way that is fair and just and does not erode the progress. We need to have an education agenda, a healthcare agenda. We need an access to capital agenda. We need a living wage agenda. We need an opportunity to close the racial wealth gap, because I can pass you my wealth, I cannot give you my job. And so what we have to do is we have to get beyond this issue of who speaks when. There was one program on that day in August of 1963, and there were a number of voices that had to be heard. I would suggest to you on this day in 2020, you and I need to make our voices heard, first by making sure that we are registered to vote and our voter registration is current. And secondly, know the process for how we're going to engage in the election in every different state across the country. Some of these states built their early economies on prison labor, and we now must push back as those who have withstood the test of time and the hostility of governments that go all the way back to the founding of this country, and to declare that we are not going to take it anymore.
Ethrin Cousin, ambassador to the UN World Food Program.
Our food systems failed during COVID, and we know that there will be significant income invested in the food system. We need to ensure that that money that is invested in the food system is also invested in Black business owners in the food system. And I'm not just talking about the mom and pop restaurants. We need to also invest in businesses that are in manufacturing, logistics, storage, to ensure that as we create a more durable and sustainable food system, that we are not just benefiting as consumers, we're benefiting as business owners and also as those increasing the number who are employed in the community as a result of having more Black business owners.
Dr. Leon McDougall, President of the National Medical Association.
The Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. Now, why is the Affordable Care Act so important? So when you look at the United States and where we live, African Americans mostly live in the southern states. So guess which states don't have Medicaid expansion, don't have Affordable Care Act access? So there's about 12 states in the South. So when there is this scourge of COVID-19 pandemic, now you have a whole community of folks trying to decide, well, I don't have insurance. I'm underinsured. So they're going to be less likely to go to the emergency room. Yes, everybody can get treated. You go to the emergency room, you can get treated. And guess what else they're going to give you on your way out of the emergency room? $2,000 bill, right? So those are the types of things that lead to healthcare disparities. So when we talk about this COVID-19 pandemic, these states, local governments, people living in these states have to hold their legislative officials accountable for that Accountable Care Act.
C.K. Hoffler, President of the National Bar Association.
When we talk about election suppression, we all know this here on this panel, but there are two ways to protect the right to vote if you're a lawyer. So we know that the RNC and the DNC, they dispatch lawyers as poll watchers to protect the right to vote, to ensure the integrity of the process. We know this is a factual matter. The RNC has said they're going to dispatch 50,000 poll workers. That's partisan. The DNC does it, the RNC does it, but there's a nonpartisan effort that the National Bar Association, Transformative Justice Coalition, Rainbow Push Coalition, Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights, ACLU, and other organizations, NAACP, embrace, and that's election protection. On March 2nd of 2020, Reverend Jackson and the late Congressman John Lewis in Congressman Lewis's office in Atlanta gave me my mandate and said, you must, in your year, make sure that Black lawyers protect the right to vote. And that's what we're doing. We have programs, we have a 50-state program that we're not talking about or doing intellectualizing about, that we are acting on in our communities. We've identified 20 of the worst states where election suppression is alive and well. And we, at our upcoming conference in October, are doing simultaneous trainings of all those 20 states so that people can be prepared and armed and know what they should do to fight election suppression. We have lawyers, our young lawyers that are working in Florida, where the citizens of Florida voted to restore the rights of convicted felons once they've served their time. And then the legislature said, yeah, but you can do that, but you're gonna have to pay all your fines. The problem is in Florida, there's no centralized way of finding out what those fines are. So there's a group that the National Bar Association has joined, and thus far they've raised over $5 million to pay all of those fines. They have done the data, they've done the research, and there are many celebrities, LeBron James and others, who are putting up the money for that. It's an extraordinary effort, but Black lawyers, National Bar Association lawyers are working hand in hand because there have to be lawyers to review the documentation to ensure that those persons will have their rights restored. That's just one example of the things that we're doing in the election protection space. So we are ready, we're willing, and we're able, and we're in action. My administration is one of action. I have made a call to action of every single African-American lawyer living in this country. And for those who are above, we're praying. We're praying, and we're asking for their grace. Because right now, here and now, we are fighting 3 pandemics, and election suppression is extraordinary. And we don't have a moment to wait. We don't have a moment to talk about it. All we have a moment to do is to act. So I'm going to leave you all with 10 things. And by the way, Barbara Arnwine, who is the mother of the election protection movement, it is a movement. Our Barbara Arnwine. When I say R, because she's a member of the National Bar Association. She's a part of Rainbow Push Coalition. She has transformative justice. She is the mother of the election protection movement for lawyers. She is our senior advisor and helped to design our policy last year, and it's being executed this year for the National Bar Association. Just want to make sure y'all are aware of that. So when we talk about the 10 pointers, I'm just going to go through them quickly for every single person, and that I have preached to our lawyers that we must do in our communities. They are as follows. 1, check your voting status. How do you do that? Go to vote.org, vote.org. Check your voting status. You may think you're registered to vote, but you may have been purged like the millions of other Americans because you didn't do something, or that somebody's saying you didn't do. Check your voting status. Number 2, verify the various voting options. And Reverend Wilson, I have this document which I can circulate, and I'm going to suggest that we send out to all of our members, to anyone, and we publicize it because it's critical. There's voting options. Well, we know we're in a pandemic. There's some people who are going to vote in person no matter what. Why? They don't trust the mail. Why? Because the mail's not reliable. Why? Because we're having issues with the Postal Service. We know this. There's litigation. We are not Bobo the Clown. We get it. But we must be able to vote safely. Early voting is critical because that's a safer way over a period of time. So for those who are comfortable, vote at your comfort level, but you must vote. Early voting. On election day, if you're going to vote, you must have protective gear. This is not the time to try to be body beautiful. We must protect ourselves with a mask, with a plastic protective shield, with gloves. We must, if you take the gloves off, use hand sanitizer because you're touching equipment to vote. Be socially distanced. Bring water, bring snacks, because you might be in line for a very long time. And bring your lawn chair. Oh yeah, don't be concerned about optics and how you look. You must vote. And if it means that you have to sit for hours, bring your lawn chair, be hydrated. And the National Bar Association is raising money and has already raised a lot of money and has a movement afoot in these areas, these 20 states that we've identified, and we've broken it down to certain cities as well, where we are going to be part of that movement to provide protective gear to our community, because it is not an option not to vote. Vote by mail if that's your comfort level. We know in our community that's not popular, because when you vote by mail, it's got to be exact. You can't answer 5 out of 10 questions. You must answer all 10 questions. And by the way, in most jurisdictions, you must put a stamp. You can't just drop it. You got to put a stamp. You know how you just think, oh, I'll just drop it because it's a ballot? No, stamp. Just remember that. But every state is different, so you must know what the rules are in your state. The National Bar Association, through its 86 affiliate chapters and sections and divisions, has training in most critical states with election suppression. Have a voting plan. Well, what does that mean? Don't let somebody else tell you how to vote. Think of what you're going to do now. Don't wait till election day, because it might be too late. Because on election day, if you want to check your status, it might very well be too late. You don't want to get a provisional ballot. Have a voting plan now. Go to your state election officials. You can do it online. Find out what's available. If you can get an absentee ballot, then, and if you can drop it off at a drop box, do that if that is what is safest for you. If you want to vote in person, I would encourage early voting. Or if you're going to vote on election day, have all that protective gear and be prepared to wait in line, because we know that the turnout is going to be exceptional and extraordinary, as well as should be, protecting the right to vote. Number 4, reach out to the state election officials to find out the rules. If you have access to the internet, you can do that. If you don't, call the National Bar Association. We will do that. Call Rainbow Push Coalition, and they will tell you how to get to your election officials in your state. Spread the word in your communities about how to protect the right to vote, going to vote.org. Spread the word. Be purveyors of information, of truth. Register with the NBA election protection effort if you are a lawyer. www.nationalbar.org. www.nationalbar.org. Reach out to Rainbow Push Coalition. Reverend Jackson has been registering and his organization's people to vote forever, for decades. We have the systems in place. In the National Bar, we have a dedicated space on our webpage as of next week that will be solely dedicated to voting. Protect yourself. I talked about masks. I talked about gloves. I talked about shields. I talked about hand sanitizer. I talked about water, food, snacks, umbrella, and lawn chairs. Yes, perhaps this may not be the best look, but we're talking about voting. We can't be talking about the best look. Voting, protecting the right to vote. Too many people died so that we could be here to vote. And please always social distance. Number 7, register 5 people. 5 people. Just take it upon yourself to be responsible for the registration of 5 people. Reach out and touch someone in your family and your circle, in your immediate circle. Number 8, arrange for transportation for someone who wishes to vote in person. Remember COVID. We know in Kentucky when they had shut down 97% of the precincts, and there was litigation around that, but people still voted in the primaries. Uber and Lyft did offer free rides. There are organizations and companies who believe in the right to vote. It's not partisan. They just want people to vote. Reach out to those organizations. Usually many of our grassroots organizations do that. If you got a car, make arrangements, but it must be done safely. Remember, we're in COVID. 9, recruit volunteer poll workers. We know that many of our poll workers historically have been senior citizens. It is not prudent, and they will be counseled against being poll workers during COVID because they're senior citizens and many times have other medical ailments that would preclude them, and their doctors probably wouldn't allow them to do that. But there are other people who want to be poll workers. Recruit them. There are many things that we can do from our desk by making phone calls. And then finally, the last point is refuse to be denied. Refuse to be denied. If you get to your polling station and there's some type of raggediness, funkiness, and we know it when we see it, it's election suppression, call 1-866-OUR-VOTE. It's a hotline. 1-866-OUR-VOTE. Call Rainbow. I've done that. I did that when I was in Brookhaven last year voting for Stacey Abrams, all kinds of irregularities. I waited 5 hours in line this time to vote in the past primary. 5 hours, it should have taken 10 minutes. There was litigation surrounding all of that because sometimes you just got to escalate it up. Again, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, that's a hotline. So all of these pointers I will get to Reverend Jeanette Wilson, but just know we got lawyers ready in the field. We're not talking about it, we're active. We only got time to talk. And we are also providing protective gear for our citizens, for our community to vote. Because after all, the one thing that lawyers know how to do, they know how to talk and they know how to get into court and to speak truth to power and to seek justice. And that's what the NBA lawyers, that is their mandate, and that's what we're doing.
Hi, I'm Todd Yeary here outside Dr. King's workshop, the Rainbow Push headquarters, where people of goodwill from all walks and all places gather as comrades in the movement for justice and equality. Social justice movements have been birthed in the imaginations of people in places just like this. You can be a part of this justice movement too. Join Rainbow Push as we fight for justice in the 21st century. Go to rainbowpush.org or dial 773-FREEDOM and remember, keep hope alive.
I can't love the city if the city don't love me. It's been 1 week since the city of Kenosha was thrust into the national spotlight with the shooting of Jacob Blake.
The thing is, those cops shouldn't have been in that situation. They should have handled it a lot better.
They tried to tase him.
Blake was shot 7 times by a Kenosha police officer. He remains in the hospital paralyzed from the waist down, according to family members. The officer who fired his gun, along with 2 other officers, are on paid administrative leave during the investigation into the shooting. The shooting sparked protests. Some demonstrators set fire to buildings and cars. 2 protesters were shot and killed, another one injured Tuesday night. 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse from Antioch is charged in the shooting. This weekend, the demonstrations continued, calling for justice for Blake.
There were 7 bullets put in my son's back. I'm standing here with my sisters and my brothers. Hell yeah, I'm mad. But understand, when you get angry, you lose control of your nature. My nature is to protect my son, to stand up for my son when he cannot stand up, to ask the police in this town what gave them the right to attempted murder on my child. What gave them the right to think that my son was an animal? What gave them the right to take something that was not theirs to take? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. No justice. No justice. And we're not gonna stop. We're not gonna stop. I know there's a lot of parents out here in this crowd. You cannot imagine what it feels like to look at your baby paralyzed from the waist down, shackled. Where was my son going? They already put him in the bed. What was the shackle for? You understand that chattel slavery was the most diabolical thing committed on brown-skinned people in the history of creation. We suffered and still suffer because there's 2 justice systems. There's one for that white boy that walked down the street and murdered those 2 people and blew that other man's arm off. And then there is a justice system for mine. That justice system for us does not work out too well for us.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson came to Kenosha to call for justice, citing in his words a pattern of violent acts by police in this country against African Americans.
So Brother Kwame Donald, Breonna Taylor, Jacob here in Wisconsin, pattern. We demand justice from the country.
There's some people that aren't worth saving. We need to build warehouses to put these people into it and lock them away for the rest of their lives. Let's put them away. At some point, we have to stop being politically correct.
Here is the sheriff speaking of warehousing people, putting them with the rest of their lives in this anti-protest season. How can they link to this?
Part of our challenge is both with the patronizing of the police chief of the 17-year-old. There was no reason for a 17-year-old to carry a loaded weapon to try to preserve peace in the city of Kenosha. You had city police, you had county police, you had 1,000 National Guard. You had more than enough security in the city to do the job of law enforcement.
How can they link to this?
These individuals are linked. Militias are part of the racism problem. Conan is a part of the racism problem. And institutional racism. You can go to our website, rainbowpush.org, and retrieve this recording of the sheriff saying we need to build warehouses for these people. He's using this dog and whistle, these people. We are not these people. We are black people, and Black Lives Matter.
I want to express my thanks to leadership gathered here today. Athletes who stood up. I think LeBron James deserved a Nobel Prize.
Yes.
Standing up in Trayvon case in Miami, standing up building a school in Ohio for Breonna Taylor he deserves. He's changed the culture of athletes in America today. I want to make this point clear. Jacob had no weapon anyone could see. Shot, he ran the street with a rifle, killed 2 people. Run right down the street and please give him a bottle of water. We deserve better than this. We must protest until the 3 of them have been indicted.
They used to say we were just 3/5 of a man, and we had to fight to be fully recognized. Back then, being counted meant marches, pickets, jail cells, and worse. One way you can show we count in less than 10 minutes is to take the 2020 census. Be a warrior for your community. Be counted and make certain adequate funds and political representation are allocated to your state and your neighborhood. Just select one of these easy options. By phone, call 844-330-2020. Online at mycensus2020.gov or simply mail in your survey. Never forget, you are somebody. Don't delay. Take the census today.
I am somebody.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did and what we did and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it, so give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select PUSH for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change.
Join Rainbow Push.
Join